maybe some new things. Or it's agreement. So let's just put it that way.
Oh, really?
Let's not get into politics.
Okay.
Apparently, there might be some movement.
And then they use,
And that would be a good thing. I think, from all of this.
There might be kind of sort of me.
There might be some people talking about how could we get to an end to this.
Yeah. All right. So let me use the bathroom real quick and then we'll get started. Do you have any questions for me about anything?
No.
Okay. All right. I will be right back.
I told, I had, Felicia picked me up, George, graduation night. When Felicia is right, not like night, okay. She handled that situation, but I'm like, I can sort of see whether it'd be best to, then we went, the food was, and then we were waiting for guests to come. On the real market, they were having to get on this side, or his mouth was having to get here. We walked in, so the service will walk past around champagne and having it all kinds of, then Felicia had that shot. But she went over got me down, this other lady talking to me, I'm trying to get out of this conversation, so I can go in and, get his breath. Anyway, the guy from Memorial, the head maker there or whatever, he said, no. And he pushed all of the refreshments back over there, and so but I'm just saying, we had some place, we had hotel sounds like is. Whenever you done, and he feel like really going, I said, well, now you get an opportunity to go to something that Orange Miles had, it's gonna be nice. And coach at the certain places, it's gonna be worth your time, just going and, walking in like you own the place. And this guy said, I ain't never been. I said, no, just go. I said, it's gonna act like you're getting ready to do a family reunion. They're gonna treat you like a party. If you walk in and act like you own the place, they're gonna treat you like you know.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for being here as always. And for those online who don't know, Thursday morning breakfast is our attempt, the Growth of Carolinas' attempt to be the bridge between people that are doing the good in the community, like Attorney Larsen here, and the people that need that good to be done in their lives. So we do this every Thursday morning because there's a lot of good that goes on in the greater Houston area. And for whatever reason, the people that need that good don't always get that information. So we try to be the bridge in between the two. And we've been talking about the dismantling of the social safety net in the country that's taking place. And we want to highlight that reality, but also let people know that there is information that you could use to get your benefits, to enhance your benefits, but you need to be paying attention to what is taking place because those benefits have been targeted for cuts. And the cuts, we're not talking about 1, 2, 3, 5%. We're talking about 50, 60, 70, 80%. So, and that's just one area. So as I've been telling people for over a year, this whole Project 2025 thing, not only is it real and everything they said they were going to do, they are doing, but they are ahead of schedule. So as a community, as a grassroots community, as a group of people who don't have a lot of money and or resources, if there was ever a time that we needed to circle the wagons and do something for our communities, that time is now because things are going to get worse before they get better. But we've always had the ability to do, and we've always been extremely resilient with what we did have. So the more information we have, the better equipped we are to create the kind of change that we need, the more likely that change is going to occur. So I'm going to read Mr. Larsen's bio. Thank God it's not too long because sometimes these paragraphs get to be a bit much. And then we're going to get into his topic this morning, which is TANF, indigent care, and unemployment. Those are the benefits that he's going to be talking about in those systems. So feel free if you have any questions, live or online, and feel free to ask us. That's why he is here. So Mr. Jeff Larsen received his Bachelor of Arts degree in 1978. Lord have mercy, I was 8 years old. From the University of Texas at Austin in honors liberal arts with concentrations in Spanish and Shakespeare. This included an academic year abroad in 1975-1976 in the New York University program at the University of Madrid. This also included 4 summers of Shakespeare at the Wynedale Historical Center, performing 3 of Shakespeare's plays each summer. Did you want to be an actor?
Not really,
Not really?
not
Okay.
really. I just love doing Shakespeare.
Okay, all right, wait a minute.
Oh.
Wait, that was it?
No,
Okay, all
that-
right, so he earned his Juris Doctorate in 1983. I was 13. Good, you making progress. From the University of Texas School of Law, where he was a member of the UT International Law Journal and published the article Enforcement of Foreign Judgments in Latin America. Mr. Larsen has been employed at the Houston office of Lone Star Legal Aid since May 1994 in the Public Benefits Unit. Over the past 31 years, he has represented clients in hundreds of administrative hearings before the Social Security Administration, the Texas Health and Human Services Commission, and the Texas Workforce Commission. He has briefed many appeals to the Social Security Appeals Council, State Court, Federal District Court, and a few to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. He has led counsel in a few employment and impact lawsuits in federal and state court and co-counsel in others. He is fluent in spoken and written Spanish. So on that note, if we can give a round of applause to Mr. Jeff Larsen, he's going to talk to us about these benefits.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mondani.
You are.
Or Mr. Mondani. As Tamani said, I appreciate that longer than needs be introduction. I've been working for legal aid for 31 years, doing public benefits the whole time. I urge you to take advantage of Lone Star Legal Aid. We're here for anybody that needs our help. It's always free. We never charge anybody. And we do public benefits. We also do a lot of other kinds of civil law. We can't do criminal law. We can't get involved in politics. They don't allow us to, but because we're federally funded. But we can do almost any kind of civil law case. We do have limited resources. We can't do everything. For example, we do some divorce cases and child custody cases, but our abilities there are very limited because we only have a few attorneys. We can't represent all of the thousands of people that need a divorce every month in Houston. So we have to be very careful about which cases we take in those areas. I'm here today to talk about 3 areas of public benefits. I'm very willing to take questions. At any point, if you have a question, please sing out. I'd love to talk to you about those. The areas that we're going to talk about, TANF, which is a small cash benefit for people with children. We're going to talk about unemployment benefits for people who have been working and are no longer working. And we're going to talk some about indigent healthcare. How do you get healthcare when you don't have any money? And there's various ways, and we'll talk about that. So first, let's talk about TANF. TANF is temporary assistance for needy families, which means it's a small check. It's not very much for families that include children. If you don't have any children, you can't get TANF. If you get TANF, you also get Medicaid. Medicaid goes along with the TANF, both for the child and for any caretakers that are included in the TANF household. TANF, as I said, requires that you have children. It also requires that you have very low income. The income limits, there are certain ways that they can exclude a little bit of income each month, but the income limits for TANF are essentially for a household of 4, $314 per month.
For a household of 4.
For a household of 4 people.
Wow.
That's gross income.
Yeah.
Now think about that. That's practically nothing.
Yeah.
So if you have a job and you're working even part-time, you probably do not qualify for TANF. If you're getting some child support, you probably do not qualify for TANF. And one of the requirements for TANF is that you cooperate with the Attorney General's office in trying to establish child support, which means that they're going to want to know where is that absent parent, what's the address, what's the social security number, where do they work. They want all that kind of information And they're pretty intense about getting it,
Mhm.
so that the Attorney General can try to go get a child support order.
Okay.
When the Attorney General does that, they are not representing mom. They're representing the state of Texas.
Hmm.
They're not trying to get the maximum amount of child support. If you want to do that, you get your own attorney. They're just trying to get enough child support so that mom can't get TANF. That's the whole purpose. They will tell you that.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
very much focused on preventing people from getting child support and other benefits.
Hmm.
But they will try to do that, and they will try to get a child support order against the absent parent. I shouldn't say dad, but typically that's who it is.
What is their success rate in doing that? Once they discover or find quote unquote dad?
You know, it's still not 100% by a long ways.
Mhm.
There are absent parents that successfully get away with not paying child support, usually by not having a steady job.
Okay.
If you're going around from one job to another, they often just can't catch you
Right.
fast enough.
Right.
But every year, the Attorney General's office has a few more little tools and ways to get that. So I don't know what their success rate is
Okay.
off the top of my head. My offhand guess would be probably more than 50%.
Okay.
You know, I think they're fairly successful.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you a story about that. About 15 years ago, a while back, I had a client who was getting Social Security of, say, I don't know, $900 a month. He wasn't getting a lot, just barely enough to live on.
Right.
And he came into my office. He was furious because they were taking half of his Social Security.
Wow.
And I said, well, for what?
It was already not enough.
It was already over
Yeah.
$900. That's not enough to live on.
Yeah.
When I investigated, it turns out that he owed a very large amount of past due child support.
Yeah.
I don't know how he developed that huge debt, but he did have a huge debt of past due child support. And the Attorney General can now take that money out of your Social Security, not out of SSI.
Yeah.
I think somebody else talked to y'all about the difference between Social Security based on your work history
Uh-huh.
and SSI based on having low income. If you get SSI, they can't take that.
Okay.
But if you get Social Security, they can take up to 1/2, and generally do take
Wow.
up to 1/2 of the Social Security to pay past due child support.
But surely he knew he had past due child support.
Oh, he knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he told me that, I called around to our family law section and said, you know, what can I do to help this guy? And they kind of looked at me with scorn and said, why would you
Yeah.
want to?
That was guy, right?
Because they spend all day, every day trying to establish child support,
Yep.
get some child support, and absent fathers like my client there are not their favorite people. So they didn't think there was anything I could do and didn't think there was any reason why I should even try.
Right.
But I tried to do my best for my client.
Mhm.
I looked up everything I could find, and there just wasn't anything.
Yeah.
They were going to get that.
Yeah.
The only way to change that is to go back to the original judge that ordered the child support,
Mhm.
or perhaps the person that is owed the child support.
Trying to work something
They
out.
try to work something out.
Yeah.
They can do that, but Social Security can't.
Right.
Social Security is only following the order that they get from the Attorney General's office, and they have no authority to do anything else.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can't appeal that to Social Security.
Gotcha.
No, that's just sort of a side issue, but that is how you get TANF.
Yeah.
The amount of TANF that you get, as I said, is very small. Again, for a family of 4, the maximum amount is $314. If you have countable income, that income reduces your TANF dollar for dollar.
Right.
So frankly, I don't see many TANF cases these days.
Okay.
Most people find that it's more trouble than it's worth. The benefit is not very high. It's a lot of trouble. And, you know, a lot of people get food stamps. Not very many people get TANF. I do want to talk about a couple of special kinds of TANF that very much might be worth your while. I mean, you can get TANF on its own,
Mhm.
especially the first 4 months. There's some significant exemptions from earned income up to $1,400. So the first 4 months, you might be able to get some significant amounts of TANF, even if you have some income
Okay.
from working. If you have income that's not from work, you probably can't. But the first 4 months, you might be able to get a significant amount of TANF, even if you have earned income. As I said, there's a couple of other kinds of TANF that might be especially useful. One kind is called grandparent TANF, that is specifically designed for people that are taking care of their grandchildren, that have those children in their household. I don't mean they're taking care of them, for a few hours a day. I mean, they have the child living with them, not necessarily custody, but they're living with them.
Right.
Grandparents can get a one-time $1,000 grant of TANF just because they have children living with them. And the grandparents' income does not matter. Okay, so if you have a grandchild living with you, that can be a pretty useful thing to do, but it's one time.
Right.
Okay?
Why is it only one time? Because the kids are.
Because that's the way the law reads, because that's what our legislature said.
Yeah.
It's $1,000.
1,000.
One time.
One time.
Yeah.
It's a one-time benefit of $1,000 to help take up that cost.
Yeah. Because
Admittedly, that doesn't do much.
You have to give up that.
No, you don't have to give up anything. You just apply.
I mean, is there like a lot of paperwork to?
It is a lot of paperwork. It starts off with an application, and the application for TANF is the same application that you would use for food stamps. So if you're applying for food stamps, it's pretty easy because you just mark, yes, I want TANF also. But that application is 34 pages long. 34 pages. Now, I will say, it's developed from a much shorter application. And when I say it's 34 pages, it's really not as much as that seems like, because there's a lot of paper and not all that many questions, but it is 34 pages long. And it does also require that you give them a lot of information to back that up. They want verification of your residence, who lives in the household, what's your income, blah, 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 blah. How many vehicles do you have, etc.
Yeah.
So it can be a lot of trouble to get food stamps or TANF. And like I said, if you're already getting the food stamps, it's the same application, so it's a lot less trouble at that point. So that's one kind of TANF that's very useful, grandparent TANF. Another kind is called non-caretaker TANF. That is, if there's a child in the household, the adult has to be a relative. You cannot get TANF if you are not a relative of the child. There's a pretty broad definition of relative. It could be an aunt, a great aunt, etc. But notice that I use female examples. It could be a great uncle for that matter. But we all know that women tend to take care of kids more than men.
Yes.
Sad thing, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
You have to be a relative to get TANF, but the definition of relative is fairly broad. It's a fairly extensive list of relatives, but you can't be a family friend that's taking care of little Johnny. You don't get TANF that way.
How do you prove that relationship? How do you, if you are the great uncle or aunt, how do you prove
You're
that?
going to have a birth certificate.
Okay.
You're
Some
gonna have to have
documentation.
proof. They will prove of everything.
Okay.
And family relationship is one of the things that's necessary to prove. That would
Okay.
generally include birth certificates and stuff like that.
Okay.
If you couldn't get that, there might be another way to do it.
All right.
And those are the kinds of things that our office often gets involved in.
Mm-hmm.
When the agency sometimes is a little bit over enthusiastic about requiring proof.
Yeah.
And when they do that, sometimes we can file an appeal and rely on some rules to say, if this is the best that you can get, that may be good enough.
Okay.
They may have to, in some cases, just take your word for it. If there's a good explanation why, better evidence is not available. And that applies to a lot of different issues.
Okay.
But generally, they're going to want birth certificates and so forth, and they're not real understanding
Flexible.
about why you might not have everything that they want.
Right.
It's when you file an application, typically, if you don't include all kinds of verifications with the application, which you can do, and it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, you're going to get back a form 1020 that says we want copies of all these kinds of documents, and we want them within 10 days from the date that we sent this out.
Oh, wow. So you lost 3 or 4 days.
Now, think about that in terms of our modern postal system, that it's not necessarily even delivering the mail within 10 days. That can be a problem.
Right.
Again, if that turns into a problem, sometimes our office can help with that. We're very willing to look at, can we come up with an appeal, an excuse, a good cause for filing something late, for example, or for filing something that's not the first thing that they asked for. For many of the kinds of verification that they ask for in these kinds of cases, food stamps or TANF, there are many alternative ways of proving the facts.
Okay.
So if you don't have a birth certificate, maybe you have a passport.
Okay.
Maybe you have some other documentation that shows a baptismal certificate or something.
Okay.
There are various ways of doing this, and we're very willing to try to work with people and see what we can come up with.
Gotcha.
But there is a kind of non-caretaker TANF where the caretaker, the adult, is not on the TANF case, just the child. And by doing that, the caretaker's income is not part of the case either.
Okay.
So Aunt Tilly, who's taking care of little Johnny, may have a job, maybe making significant money, but Johnny's the only one getting TANF, and only Johnny's income counts, and probably Johnny doesn't have any income. So that's a way of working this out too. If you want to apply for that kind of thing, you might want to talk to us and try to help you do that. Our office doesn't generally get involved in doing applications because we figure people can do their own application for food stamps, for TANF or whatever.
Right.
We sometimes do if we think the person really can't do it on their own.
Okay.
There are people that are really not capable of filling out a 34-page application. Maybe they have handicaps of some kind, etc. If we have to, we can do that. We don't like to because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
We can do it if we need to.
Yeah.
Let me go on to another kind of benefit. If you have questions about TANF, feel free to sing out.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk some about unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
Unemployment is basically a cash benefit for people that have been working and are no longer working. I say have been working because the first thing that Texas Workforce Commission is going to look at when you apply for unemployment is whether you have enough work history in what they call your base period.
Yep.
Your base period is the year before the last completed calendar quarter when you apply.
Okay.
So if you applied today is, we're in November of 2025. The last completed quarter, this is the last quarter of 2025, but it's not completed. The last completed quarter was third quarter. So we're going to be talking about the year before the third quarter of 2025, which would be the first 2 quarters of 2025 and the last 2 quarters of 2024. If you applied today, that's your base period. They look at that base period and see, do you have significant income reported by paying taxes in that base period? And at least 2 of those quarters, you have to have some significant amount of income. I forget the exact amount. It's not a huge amount, but you have to have worked some in at least 2 of those quarters.
Okay.
Okay. If you have enough work history, then the amount of benefits that you might be eligible for depends on that work history. It is not true. People sometimes think that it's the employer that pays the unemployment benefits, and that is not true.
Yeah.
But getting unemployment does generally make the employer's unemployment taxes go up slightly for all the employees that they still have. So employers often fight unemployment pretty hard. They don't like people to get unemployment for that reason. Also, a lot of time, the other reason, the second thing that the TWC is going to look at when you apply for unemployment is how you left your last job. Go ahead, there's a question.
Who actually pays for the unemployment?
The state pays the unemployment. They pay it out of money that they get from employers generally in unemployment taxes.
So,
See what I mean?
so the employer, he gives the state.
If I'm working, when I work for Lone Star Legal Aid,
Uh-huh,
they take out a certain amount for FICA taxes, for
Mhm.
Social Security, but
Yeah.
there's also unemployment taxes that are taken out automatically
okay,
before I ever see my paycheck. It happens to all of us who are not filthy rich.
right,
You know, if you're filthy rich, you
sure,
don't pay any kind of taxes like
right, yeah,
that.
you get around that,
You know, you get all your money from the corporation. You don't have to worry about that stuff.
yeah.
But all of us who are working for wages,
Mhm.
that's taken out automatically, and that money pays for unemployment.
So if that money comes out regardless, then why would employers have an issue with?
Because the unemployment tax rate
Oh,
goes up for
okay.
your employer if you win the unemployment case against them, unless they're already maxed out. There are certain employers who get so many unemployment cases against them, and they're so often successful
Mhm.
that they're already paying the maximum rate. Their rate can't go up anymore.
Right, gotcha. Okay.
Employer,
Employer.
No, they really don't.
but when you say that they like have too many, they have too many people that have been unemployed. then they-
There are certain employers that, how can I say, they're sort of bad actors maybe, or they just have a lot of churn, a lot of, you know, they
Yeah, that's what I was
end
about
up
to say.
losing a lot of employees for one reason or another. If they've had a lot of employees who have won unemployment cases in the last year or two, then their rate may already be at the maximum rate. And if you win your case, that doesn't increase their rate at all because it's already maxed out.
Right.
But generally, it increases their rate of it, the rate that they have to pay. So even though you're not employed there anymore, they still have employees probably.
Some kind of benefits them, like if they have a turnover, because then they rate max it out, and then they don't have to.
But if they're not maxed out, they don't want to be maxed out.
They don't want to be maxed out.
Right.
That means they're paying a max
a lot of taxes.
amount of unemployment taxes.
Right.
They don't like to pay taxes.
If they can be a better employer.
Anyway, all I'm saying, the other thing that I was gonna go on to say, the second major factor in whether you're gonna get unemployment is the way that you left your last job.
Right.
You are disqualified from unemployment if you quit voluntarily without good cause connected with the work, or if you were fired for misconduct. So let's talk about each of those just a little bit. Fired if you quit voluntarily, you have the obligation then to show TWC why you had good cause connected with the work. When we say connected with the work, you know, if you didn't get paid, that's good cause connected with the work every time. But if you left your job because I have to go take care of my mother who's sick,
Mhm.
that may be a very good cause, but it's not connected with the work. Under
Okay.
TWC's rules,
Okay, yeah.
if you left your job because you no longer have a vehicle and you can't get to work, that may seem like a great reason to you, but TWC looks at it and goes, hey, that's no fault of the employers.
Right.
We're not going to say that's good cause connected with the work.
Yeah.
So it has to be some good cause connected with the work.
Can you give another example other than you not getting paid by the employer? Is there another example you can give as far as connected to the work?
Sure. If they if they put me to work cleaning bathrooms,
Mhm.
I might go, hey, that's a demotion.
Okay,
That's connected with the work. I'm not doing that work.
okay.
That's not something I should have to do.
Or if they're giving you
Now, if
something
I was
that's
hired to
dangerous,
clean bathrooms, well, then, you know, that's the job.
or if they're giving you something to do that's dangerous, that can be connected to the work.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely true.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
Now, I've heard this is a common thing with blacks. they look out for too many Hispanics.
Too many,
Too many Hispanics. And they
Too many
hire-
Hispanics.
They
Uh-huh.
hire too many Hispanics, they only Hispanic.
You mean the employer?
Yeah.
Okay.
They hire too many of their Hispanics and they fire us because we black.
Mhm.
And they gonna hire too many of the Hispanic people. That's the common thing that blacks are gonna say.
Okay, and the question is, would that get you unemployment? If you can show that that's the reason, of course. Because that's certainly not misconduct, and you didn't quit voluntarily, you were fired. If you are fired and you apply for unemployment, first they look at, do you have enough work history? But if you have enough work history, then they're gonna go, okay, well, then why were you were fired? Okay, was that because of misconduct? Well, not if that's the reason. Now.
But that'd be laid off.
That
no?
that's essentially laid off.
Yeah, it's a different.
If you're just laid off for no apparent reason, you can't really sue your employer, and I want to get to that in a minute, but certainly you can get unemployment. Now, I hear that kind of thing a fair amount, not just from blacks, basically every racial group sort of wants to blame everybody else. But what I will say is that that is certainly not misconduct, and certainly if that's the reason, you can certainly get unemployment. Now that connects to another thing that I wanted to mention in regard to unemployment. When people call about unemployment, a lot of times the first thing they say is, I want to sue my employer for wrongful termination. And they think, well, I was terminated. And the reason is bogus, so it's wrongful termination.
Ergo.
And I have to explain to them that makes perfect sense to me, but it's not the law.
Right.
When we talk about the law of wrongful termination in Texas and pretty much every other state in this country, they're talking about a termination for a reason that is illegal. There's only a very few reasons that are illegal. I often explain to my clients, they can fire you for any stupid reason that occurs to them. I didn't say you won't get unemployment. The stupid reason is not misconduct, generally, but they can fire you for any stupid reason they want. You can't sue them. They could fire you because you drove a green car. Now that's the stupidest reason I could think of. Who gives a damn what color your car is? And it doesn't even have to be true.
Yeah. And that's
They can fire you for driving a green car when you have never driven a green car.
And that's because Texas is a right to work state, correct?
Because Texas is a right to work state. Now, that would be different if you had a contract.
They
If
say no
you had a
cars.
union. Now, in the office where I work, we are employees. We're not stupid. We have a union, folks, that protects us from that kind of abuse. But if you don't have a contract and you don't have a union, well, they can fire you for any stupid reason that occurs to them.
Right.
And they often do.
And they often
And
do.
here's the part that makes that really difficult. When they do fire you because of race or sex or age, whatever reasons those are, they usually don't admit that.
Right.
They're going to say, oh no, we fired her because she should have late for work one time. We fired her because she wasn't taking the job very well. We fired her because we just didn't like her.
Yeah.
And we just didn't like her, unfortunately, is all the reason they have to give.
Wow.
And the hard part is, if you sue the employer for firing you, and they say, well, we fired her because we just didn't like her, what's the judge going to say? That's not why they fired you? Well, how does the judge know why they fired you? There are some cases where you can win that kind of case, but it's very difficult because you have to show what's in the employer's mind when they fired you.
What could a union do to protect you in that situation now?
Well, typically a union is going to have a contract that says you can't fire me unless you have good cause.
Gotcha.
That's what my union says.
Sure.
We've actually had lawyers that they tried to fire, and we said, now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's the reason for firing this person.
Okay.
You can't just fire this person because we're not happy, or maybe because he said something unpleasant about the boss.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that's not good cause. Now, if it's true that this attorney did something unethical,
Mhm.
if the attorney is abusing things, well, okay, maybe you can fire it
Sure,
for good
for
cause.
good cause.
But that's what a union can do and should do.
Gotcha.
What I was gonna say though is that I'm told, even I am not this old, but I'm told that back in 1968, when they passed the Civil Rights Act, making it possible to sue an employer for firing people for race discrimination, for
Mhm.
example, there were actually employers who were so stupid that they would walk into court and say, yeah, I fired him because he's black. I hate it. Okay. And the judge would go, okay.
Thank you.
Well, you just admitted that you've done something illegal,
Yeah.
and now the question is, how much damages do you owe? Let's talk about how much you're going to pay this former employee for firing him for race discrimination.
Yeah.
Employers are not that stupid anymore.
Anymore.
Like I said, they're not gonna say, I fired him because he's Hispanic, I fired her because she's old. They're gonna say, we fired her because we just didn't like her.
Yeah.
And they get away with it. I've done cases like that.
Wow.
And where I tried to say, well, my client says they fired you, she got fired because of her age. And the law firm that fired her said, oh, we just didn't like her.
Okay.
And how do I win that case?
Yeah.
I ended up losing, basically.
Yes.
So I can tell you, if I have time, I can tell you one good story about that, though.
Okay.
I was complaining about this very thing. I was telling one of our supervisors, I never see a good employment discrimination case. We get all these people talking about employment discrimination. I never see a good one. He said, well, I have. My supervisor worked out in Beaumont. And his story is from the late 80s, I think. He liked to represent gay people. Not sure why. Maybe it's just his inclination, I don't know. But he had a client that had HIV. And this was at a time when HIV was deadly, and when people were scared out of their minds. When I don't know if y'all are old enough to remember, some of you definitely are.
I do.
But when HIV first came
I
out,
remember that. Yeah.
people were just terrified of it. So when his employer found out that he had HIV, I don't remember how they found out. He worked in a warehouse. He drove a forklift. Okay, you can't pass HIV to somebody by driving a forklift, right? At least not. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
So when they found out, they were very afraid, and they held a vote
Mm-hmm.
in the warehouse and said, should we fire Charlie or not?
Really?
And the really disgusting, sad thing is, the vote was, yeah, fire him. We're
Yeah.
scared. So they fired him. Now, the lawyer, my colleague, said, we looked at this case and said, well, is that discrimination illegal? Yeah, it's because of a disease.
Yeah.
That's handicap discrimination. It's a discrimination based on his disease.
Mm-hmm.
And that is illegal. And unlike most employment discrimination cases, they couldn't say, oh, we fired him because we didn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
They held a vote.
Right.
Everybody in the damn business could testify about why they fired him. We know exactly why they fired him. It was right there in writing. It was, everybody knew.
Yeah.
So we get down to, well, now the question is, how much do they owe this guy?
Right.
It's a very easy case.
Yeah.
But that's a very unusual case.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the Tom Hanks Denzel Washington movie?
There was a Tom Hanks
That's what it
movie.
sounds like. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philadelphia. Yeah.
Good thing about Philadelphia. Yeah, I think,
I don't know.
I don't really remember exactly how the movie went,
Yeah.
but that was my supervisor's story, and I had to admit, that was one good case.
Yeah. it was-
But I didn't see any good cases like that
Gotcha.
that I could do. So I don't know, do you have any other questions about unemployment? You're gonna be denied unemployment if you were fired for misconduct. Misconduct generally is defined as you did something illegal,
Mhm.
something that was clearly wrong, even though it might not have been illegal, or something that was against a rule that they told you about.
Right.
They had to tell you. So in this restaurant, if they have a rule that they make known to all their employees, they give you a handbook, And in the handbook, in big letters, it says, every time you go to the bathroom, you have to wash your hands. If you go to the bathroom, you don't wash your hands, and they catch you at it, and they fire you for that, is that misconduct? Yes, it is. It's a rule. You were told about the rule, you violated the rule, that's misconduct.
You gotta go.
Okay, but we do hearings about that pretty much every week or two. About unemployment cases, is there misconduct? Was there a good cause connected with the work? Why the person quit? And I don't know, we generally win those.
Okay.
Well, partly that's because we choose the ones that we're gonna do. In our office, we like doing unemployment cases. I especially love doing them. But we gotta pick the ones that we can do, because in my example, if you worked here and you didn't wash your hands,
Yeah.
and they have it in the employee manual, and they gave you the manual, and it's right there in big letters, we're gonna lose.
Right.
No point in doing that hearing.
Yeah.
There are also all sorts of weird procedural issues that come up. We do those if we need to. But that's the basic idea of unemployment. You get some money. The amount of benefits depends on your work history. Often it comes out to about a quarter of your previous salary. So it's not like you get as much money as you need. No, it's not.
Right.
But hey, it's better
But
than
it's
nothing.
something, yeah.
And a lot of people just don't even think about it. I can testify. Last time I was laid off 31 years ago,
Yeah.
32 years ago, it was like 6 months before I thought, now, wait a minute. I was an employee.
Right.
I got laid off, no misconduct. I had plenty of work history. I'm eligible for unemployment. At that time, I'd never done any public benefits work, so I didn't remember these things, you know. My wife's going, hey, you should remember stuff like that. You
It's
know?
helpful.
It'd be good to have some
Yeah.
income here, even if it's not, as much as you were making, a quarter of your previous income is
It's
still
something,
pretty
yeah.
useful. So unemployment benefits can be real helpful to people, and we're real willing to help people try to get those if we think there's a way to do it. The last thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit here is indigent healthcare. Again, if you have questions, please fire them out. It doesn't have to be over one of these subjects. Any kind of public benefits, I really can talk about. But indigent healthcare is really important, especially, and it may be even more important. You were mentioning the dismantling of our
Social
public
safety.
benefit systems. We haven't really seen what may happen. I don't want to get too deep into the politics, but the major problems with Medicare and Medicaid are, as I understand it, are scheduled to happen right after, well, say in December of 2026, right after, I don't know, what's going to happen in November of 26, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The major,
they're not happening right now,
yeah,
but they will.
but it's coming.
It's coming.
Yes, sir.
When you can't get healthcare through Medicaid or Medicare, those are probably the best ways to get healthcare. It's the first thing I would look for any client. Can we get them on Medicaid or Medicare? Texas does not give Medicaid to adults without children who just have low income. I have clients sometimes who come in and go, well, I was living in Arkansas and I got Medicaid. Why can't I get Medicaid here? Because Texas didn't want to do that, fought all the way to the Supreme Court and got a decision saying, if you don't want to give people, adults, Medicaid, you don't have to. So they did not expand Medicaid to cover adults generally. Now, there are some adults who can get Medicaid, but that's people who get TANF. Remember, TANF, you get Medicaid. People who get SSI, you get Medicaid automatically. Any month that you get SSI, you have Medicaid. People who are in a nursing home generally are eligible for Medicaid. And I want to mention this just so that everybody is aware. When you get long-term Medicaid, like nursing home Medicaid, or the kind of Medicaid where they come into your home to take care of you, that's also long-term care Medicaid. When you pass away, go ahead, you had a question?
Right there.
People in nursing home are all, they all have the capability of getting Medicaid, even if they have Medicare.
Generally, yes. Not everybody, but generally, if you're in a nursing home, you can probably get Medicaid. And that covers the nursing home cost. Now, the thing that I was gonna get to here, I'm not really here to talk a lot about Medicaid, but I'm very willing to if you want. The thing that I was gonna mention, because it seems very important to me, when that person passes away, Medicaid has Medicaid estate recovery. They're gonna try to get their money back
Right,
by going after the person's estate.
which is amazing to me. That's an
Well,
amazing.
and largely, that's often the home.
Yeah.
There's a very
Yeah.
good way of avoiding that completely
Mhm.
by doing what's called a transfer on death deed. So if I'm going into a nursing home, or I'm already in a nursing home, or I think I'm going to be in a nursing home, and I want to make sure that Medicaid doesn't take my house away from my kids, there are a bunch of exceptions from Medicaid estate recovery where we might be able to defend that person's home anyway.
And what's that called again?
Medicaid estate recovery,
The other part, the transfer on death.
transfer on death deed, TODD,
Got that, Ms. Ruth? Transfer on death deed?
Write it down.
a transfer on
Write it
death,
down.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
yes,
Hold on, turn it
Uh,
off. Transfer.
on death
On death
deed.
deed, okay. Okay.
This could be useful for other things, but it's specifically eligible, useful for this. Because what it does is, a transfer on death deed says, when I pass away, my home automatically, without going through probate, automatically passes to my friend,
Oh, you can have someone outside of your family?
anybody you want.
Mhm.
So it's
You can
like
pass it to my son Will, you can pass it to my friend Charlie, you can pass it to, whoever you want. Now, until you die, that transfer on death deed doesn't do anything. Can I sell my house the next day? Yeah, I can. And the transfer on death deed has no effect till I haven't died yet. Question.
Now, to get the transfer to the death deed, what do you do? You have to get a paper. fill it
Yeah.
out, you know.
It's just a little form that you fill out and file with,
Where do you get that from?
we can give it to you.
Okay.
I mean, there are other ways you could get it. I mean, it's available, I believe,
Okay.
from the state bar.
So
Uh,
you can do that yourself, you don't need any attorney.
you don't particularly need an attorney to do it. Our office would be very happy to just give you the form.
Okay.
It's not a difficult form to use.
Does it need to be notarized?
I believe it does.
Mhm.
I believe it does. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't done one for a while, but I believe it does need to be notarized and filed with the clerks, the county clerk's office and the property records,
Mhm.
so that if I pass away, 3 days later or 25 years later, my son Will, who's the beneficiary, can just take my death certificate and go and say, look, here's the transfer on death deed, here's the death certificate, this house now belongs to me. It does not go through the probate court,
Okay.
and the state of Texas Medicaid, the state recovery can't get at it because it doesn't go through probate.
Okay.
I have a two-part question.
Yeah,
That sounds like that will be a part of estate planning, correct? Okay, so and the second part might be a bit more difficult to answer, but how many things like the death on
transfer on death
transfer on
deed.
death deed, how many things like that are a part of or should be a part of estate planning that people don't do? Are there other things like that that people are simply not aware of, they could use that they don't do?
I think this may be the best one
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of low income people.
Okay, but all the other things that go along
If
with
you've
that.
got
people also-
$27 million,
Uh-huh.
yeah, there's like 200 things that you want to look at
Okay,
in terms of estate planning.
right, but if you.
But if you're just a normal person who has a house and, maybe a little money in a bank account,
Mhm.
there's a couple of other things you could do. One thing is you can indicate a beneficiary on your bank account
Mhm.
so that it transfers automatically.
Okay,
See what I mean?
okay.
If I have my own bank account, I'm the only signatory,
Mhm.
and I die, if my son Will wants to get that money, he has to go through probate. And can the estate recovery be? Yeah, they can get that.
Okay,
It's not as big a lump of money as the house, so they may not be interested.
sure.
But if there's any money there, they may want to get it.
Does Lone Star Legal Aid have a estate planning unit, department area?
Not really. We all just do a little bit when we
Okay.
can. But we'd be happy I mean, generally, we're not gonna set up the bank account, for example, for you. We'll just tell you.
Right.
All you have to do is go down to the bank and tell them, I want my son Will to be a signatory on this bank
Yeah,
account.
I'm asking because I know that those things people don't know. Like
Yeah.
Ms. Ruth, she got excited because she learned something that she didn't know.
And that's why I brought it up.
Right, and now I'm assuming that
You
there
know,
are
I-
other things that people don't know that should also be brought up just to make sure that people are aware. Because who knows these things?
That's how people lose their house.
Exactly, because they just don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
And there are some things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about trying to go around to nursing homes.
Yeah.
Because who needs this information about a transfer on death deed? Well, mainly people who are already in a nursing home.
People are knocking on the door.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
if anybody's gonna get hit with that, well,
it would be them.
there's the person.
Captive audience.
Um,
Has Alzheimer's.
Mm.
well, yeah, that may be very difficult because it depends how bad it is. But if the person is not really capable of understanding, then it's too late to do a transfer on death deed because they don't have the mental capacity to do that.
Okay.
Could there be somebody else who could do that? Well, maybe there's a way to do that. I don't know. That
I would think
begins
it'd
to
be
get
someone who
very
has power of attorney,
complicated.
right, with that person?
I'm sorry.
I'm assuming it would be someone who has power of attorney with that person, I would guess.
Well, again, if the person is not mentally competent,
Mm-hmm.
In my view at least, mental competence is not a real high bar.
Mm-hmm.
To be mentally competent, somebody doesn't have to be a chess master
Sure.
and, brilliant.
Yeah,
They have to understand what we're doing.
right.
If I say, do you understand that we're gonna set up this transfer on death deed and make sure that your son William gets the house
Mm-hmm.
automatically when you die, and they look at me and go, what?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're not competent.
Right.
And they're not competent probably to give a power of attorney.
Yeah.
Now, they might sign something,
Yeah.
but it's not really legally valid because they're not mentally competent to do that. They
Sure.
don't know what they're doing.
Right.
At that point, the only way to do that in a valid way would be to get a guardianship. And that's a good bit of work through a probate court. Our office probably is not going to do that, although maybe if we really needed to. I don't know.
So the workaround would be if you have a loved one who has early onset Alzheimer's,
Get it done.
start
now.
doing that stuff then.
Yeah.
Because you know what's inevitable.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. Yeah, when my mom was developing Alzheimer's
Mhm.
and knew that's what was happening,
Yeah.
she wasn't incompetent, but she knew it was coming.
Sure.
She put 3 of us on her bank account and gave all of us powers of attorney, which is a very bad idea. You don't want to have 3 powers of attorney.
My
Just
my
way to have
$10.
a huge fight,
Right.
but the 3 of us were not going to have a huge fight, so it turned out all right.
Okay.
But she knew all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if we did a transfer on death deed, but we certainly thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, she didn't own the house that she was living in, so we didn't really need to worry about that.
Okay.
But certainly, she took care of those things as soon as that became apparent.
Right. Right.
Before she became incompetent, because she knew she was going to. She was a nurse.
Yeah.
She knew what Alzheimer's looked like,
Yeah.
and she knew what was coming.
So is that better than? That's
Is that better than a trust?
not
It's a
better.
lot simpler.
Okay.
Which one?
That's what I would say. Could you put your house in a trust and thus avoid the avoid the MER? You could, but a trust is a lot more complicated.
And it costs.
It's gonna take some attorney time, and yeah, it's gonna cost money probably. Our office is not gonna do it. I don't do trusts. I do one kind of trust. There's a certain situation where people are in a nursing home. They have income, usually from Social Security or VA benefits or something. They have some income. Their income is not enough to pay for the nursing home. but it's too high to be eligible for nursing home Medicaid, because you ask, is everybody eligible? No, not if you have too much income. So they have too much income to be eligible for nursing home Medicaid, but not enough to pay for the nursing home. So they're in a very bad place,
Yes.
because how else are you gonna pay for the nursing home?
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
they're just
there's a way to
stuck
pay for it.
between a rock and a hard place.
There's a way to pay.
There's a way around that.
Oh,
I can do a trust, even a fairly competent trust attorney. I don't do trusts. I'm not good at it. I don't want to be good at it. That's not what I do. But I can do this one kind of trust called a qualified income trust that puts all of the income from that person into a trust. And the trustee, who's usually a family member, maybe the spouse, pays a tiny little amount to the individual each month that they're allowed to get in the nursing home. I don't remember how much it is, $65 or something. That's the nursing home allowance. The rest of it, they pay to the nursing home. And then using that trust, they can apply for nursing home Medicaid, and the Medicaid office will approve it. Now, it's a specific kind of trust. It's got specific language that is approved by the Medicaid office. And every time I do one, I just, please don't let it blow up in my face. Oh, please don't, because I'm not a trust attorney. It's not what I'm good at. I know that I'm sort of beyond my depth, but I do this one kind of trust and it works great. It allows them to get nursing home Medicaid. Whatever income they have is going into this trust, and most of it is going to the nursing home unless they have a spouse. If they have a spouse, usually we can divert most of that income to the spouse and still make them eligible for nursing home Medicaid. So this is a very, even more useful kind of trust if this person has a spouse. Can we do that? Easily. It's on my word processor. I just pull it up, boom, 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 boom. And then go, please don't.
Two-part questions.
Please don't let it go in my face.
Are there attorneys at Lone Star Legal Aid that do trusts, that like to do
It's
trusts?
the only kind of trust that we do, so
Okay.
far as I know.
Okay,
Occasionally, we get approached by somebody that wants us to do now, this kind of trust is for income. There's another kind of trust for resources, for money that you have and are going to carry over from one month to another. That's a resource. Sometimes we get a call from somebody that wants that kind of, what's it called? Special needs trust for resources. And usually what I tell them is, it's not worth it. A special needs trust is going to shelter that income from being, they're going to shelter those resources, that money, from being considered a resource for Medicaid purposes, for example, and allow you to get Medicaid. But you can then only use that money for certain very specific purposes, and you can't use it for the kinds of things that you mainly need: food, shelter, etc.
Yeah.
So it's not generally something that I think is real helpful. Go
wait,
ahead.
hold on, I had a two-part question. I had a two-part question.
Let me finish my thought, and I'll get the
Yeah.
question.
The second part was, Lone Star only does civil. Why do they not do criminal? That's the part of my question.
Well, we can't. We're not allowed to.
Oh, okay, so it's not part of the charter, I
Our
guess?
federal funding does not allow
Oh.
us to do any kind of criminal case. That would
Okay.
even be a traffic ticket.
Gotcha.
You know,
Okay.
my clients sometimes call me about it, and I go, you could talk to a private attorney. We can't do it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when I talk to somebody with that kind of resource problem, what I generally suggest for most of our clients are all fairly low income. By definition, we're not allowed to represent people with tons of money. But for our low income clients, if they have $2,000 in the bank, and that's a problem for their Medicaid, the solution is spend it.
Get rid-
Spend it on something that will not be considered a resource after you buy it. Spend it on something for you, not for something else. One thing that we have to emphasize, when you have too many resources and you want to get SSI or you want to get Medicaid, you cannot give those away. If you give them away, you trigger a provision that may make you ineligible for up to 3 years or 5 years. So do not give money away. You know,
Well,
giving the money to your nephew who needs to go to school or something may seem like a perfectly great idea. It's a wonderful thought. Can't do it. If you do that, SSI and Medicaid will consider that as your income for the next 3 years. Or up to 3 years at least. So it's a real trap. Do not give the money away. But can you spend it? Of course. Now, what are you going to spend it on? Well, spend it on a house. Spend it on your house. Spend it on repairing your house. Spend it on paying rent for 6 months into the future or 4 years into the future. Spend it on a house. Spend it on a car if you want to, because generally one car is exempt. It's not a resource that they count. So you can buy a car and get a better car, as long as you only have one car, and still get food stamps, still get SSI, still get TANF, etc. So spend it down in some way is generally a better solution than doing
Yes.
than doing a special needs trust.
Right.
Now, where a special needs trust often is useful is we see cases sometimes where, for example, a child is horribly injured in an accident and they sue and they get $4 million that's going to have to be used for their care for the rest of their life. Okay, this is not like $4 million that they can just, spend willy-nilly. They're going to need that money through the rest of their life.
yeah.
I'm not going to do that trust. I don't want to be handling $4 million. That's not my job. It's not something I'm going to do, but that would be a special needs trust. You would put that money into a trust so that can continue to be used for that kid for the rest of his life. Question.
What about your 401k? How does that come into play?
Oh, 401k is going to count as a resource for some purposes and not for others. It depends on what kind of benefits you're looking at. And to be sure, I would have to look at the rules for that specific kind of benefits. But generally, a 401k is going to be a resource. It's money that you have access to. The general rule for things like SSI, food stamps, TANF, they all have resource limits. The resource limits for SSI is $2,000. The resource limit for food stamps is $5,000. Any money that you have access to generally is going to be considered a resource. So if you have a 401k, I'm not sure if that counts for food stamps. For SSI, I believe it will.
So you better spend that.
But again, to be sure, I would have to look it up.
You get back. Oh, I need to get back to you.
Yeah, you can call me and ask me and I'll tell you the answer to that question. I'll look it up.
Okay.
But you're specifically looking at eligibility for food stamps, SSI, or what?
Not really, I just wonder how.
Well, see, that's what I mean. It depends on which kind of benefit you're talking about. Each kind of benefit has their own rules about what counts, what doesn't count. And I don't remember them all off the top of my head. That's what I'm telling you. I could give you an answer and I wouldn't be sure I'm right. So I don't want to give you an answer.
Amen.
I appreciate that.
If you're not sure, you want to sort of assume that that's going to be considered a resource unless we can find a specific rule that says we're not going to count that as a resource. There are certain things that I know don't count for SSI, for food stamps, for TANF. That includes the house that you live in. If you own your own house, that's not a resource for SSI, for TANF, for food stamps. For unemployment, it's not an issue. I'm sorry, I've gotten distracted here because I wanted to get to indigent healthcare.
Right.
We started talking about Medicaid a little bit. When you can't get Medicaid or Medicare, then you have to find some other way to get healthcare. There are several possibilities. One of them is the Affordable Care Act, what people call Obamacare.
Right.
Healthcare.gov.
Yep.
My son, who's 30 and trying to make a living doing music and acting and not very high income,
Right.
I think he's paying $25 a month for Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance. You can't beat that. Now, what's going to happen to that this month? Well, it's gonna go way up. How much way up, I don't know. But all of those are gonna go way up this month. Why? Because that's what our government has done.
Yeah.
Um, elections have consequences, like they say. So, that is still a real possibility. You might want to check healthcare.gov. That's a good place to look and see, can I get healthcare that I can afford that way? It may still be a good answer for some people. And then again, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Another good answer is indigent healthcare. Every county in Texas is required to have an indigent healthcare program. In Harris County, we have Harris Health, what used to be called the Harris County Hospital District. Many people call it having the gold card. Because years ago, they gave out a little gold colored plastic card. I'm old enough to remember that gold colored plastic card. They don't give it out anymore.
Okay.
But people still talk about, I've got a gold card. Well, not anymore. Now they give out a little piece of paper that says, you know, you're eligible in class 1 and here are your fees. One thing that I will mention about Harris Health, I personally have sued them twice. I'm almost ashamed of myself because they're good people.
Yeah,
I hate to sue them,
but if that's not.
but sometimes they do things that they should not be doing.
Mhm.
I didn't sue them for money. I don't want their money. We sued them the first time because they were taking way too long to decide applications. They were taking months and months, and when you're sick, you don't need to be told whether you can get health care 3 months from now. You need to know within 14 days, like the law requires.
Okay.
So we sued them and said, you have to decide within 14 days.
Right.
And
What kind
they
of suit is that for?
eventually they settled it out and said, okay, we'll decide.
What kind of suit was that?
It was a lawsuit in federal court.
Mm-hmm.
We got into federal court. This is really only interesting to attorneys. Generally, you can't get into federal court on a case like that. You would have to do it in state court.
Okay.
But in this case, we also had a constitutional claim because they didn't have an appeal procedure.
Oh.
Every kind of public benefits
Mm-hmm.
has to have an appeal procedure.
Right.
When I went and talked to their CEO before we filed suit, I went and talked to him. I said, you should be deciding these cases within 14 days. Yeah, we should. We'll get around to it. Went back to my office and my boss said, well, Jeff, you can keep hammering at them and eventually maybe they'll do all right. Or you can just sue their asses and,
Yeah.
you know,
Make them change.
make them change it.
Yeah.
So we filed a lawsuit. And like I said, I'm glad we did. They fought real hard for almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the year, they realized that we were not going to go away. They were not going to get us knocked out of court. And they were going to have to defend this in front of a federal judge, and they didn't have any defense.
They were fighting it because they didn't have the personnel to prosecute.
No, they're fighting because they thought they could fight.
Oh,
Yeah.
just because
They were fighting because they had
How dare you
county
sue us?
attorney's office. They have a bunch of litigators.
Right,
They're used to doing medical malpractice cases
Okay.
where their attorneys romp and stomp.
Okay.
They have a bunch of special protections. They win a lot of their cases. They're lawyers and they say, oh, how dare you sue us?
Right.
And we're going, well, we're just asking you to obey the law. No, you can't. So, it was really hilarious. We'd have these meetings where they had 2 lawyers and we had 2 lawyers. One of their lawyers was their top-notch litigator, their bulldog who's going, you can't. And we had my supervisor was the bad guy in our routine.
Yeah.
And he would go, yeah, we got it. And the 2 of them would be over there yapping like little dogs.
Yeah.
And me and the other attorney would go, well, I don't know. How do you think we should do this?
Yeah, this
It
ain't
wasn't
working.
really quite that easy
Right.
because for a year they kind of fought us, but in the end they realized they were not going to get this case knocked out of court. They thought that would be easy. No, it was not easy.
Right.
And turns out that all of our legal arguments about why we can be in federal court, turns out that was right. Certainly not completely to my surprise, but I was real relieved. And at that point they said, well, maybe we should settle this out. And we
Right.
sat down. They paid for a mediator, this high dollar lawyer
Mhm.
mediator. We went in this, like 27th floor
Yeah.
office, thick carpet, really great coffee and pastries. And, the mediator basically said, so, what do you guys want? And we said, we want A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Yeah,
And they said, well, A, we can do that. B, yeah. C, yeah. Now D, we can only do half of D. E, we can mostly do F, G. Yeah, okay.
okay,
That took us most of the morning,
yeah,
and by about noon, we came up with an agreement, said, okay, this is what we're gonna agree. We went home, we wrote it all out.
cool.
And for about a year after that, they sent me a report every month saying how they were doing on getting up to deciding within 14
Right,
days.
right.
Because that was the main thing we were suing them about. We were suing about several other things too.
Yeah,
Like I said, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
that's right,
Because when we sued them, we found out some other things they were doing that they shouldn't have been.
right.
But they straightened out a lot. And a big agency like that, you can't tell them, starting tomorrow, you have to decide all your applications within 14 days. They just can't do it that fast.
Right.
But we said, within 2 months, you're gonna decide 70% of your cases within 14 days.
Right.
Within 4 months, you're gonna decide 80, et cetera. See what I mean? You're gonna do better and better. And you're gonna give me a report.
Yeah.
Every month about how you're doing. You're gonna send that report to Jeff Larsen.
It's a process.
And they did.
Yeah.
I got this report every month, and basically I didn't really pay much attention. I was just sort of making sure.
Check back to what the see make sure they doing.
They are, and they still are. I mean, I watched it. And I would say I didn't hold them, viciously to the letter of the agreement. I wanted to make sure they were improving,
Mhm.
and they were. They were doing what they could. They were getting better and better. And did they always meet exactly the requirement that we set? I don't really remember, but they got better. They're doing it within 14 days, and they still are. So that was the first time I sued them. Second time I sued them, it was because they were charging fees to people with no money. And when people have no money, they can't pay a fee.
Right.
So even though it's only $8 per prescription, if you're living under a bridge and you have 8 prescriptions, you can't pay $64 a month for your prescriptions.
Right.
And besides that, the law says they could request a contribution, but may not deny or reduce services because of failure to pay that by a low-income person.
And we're
That's-
still talking about indigent care, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so how could you charge indigent care people?
Well, the first thing they said when we sued them over this, like 10 years ago,
Uh-huh.
was, well, every indigent healthcare program in Texas does this. I said, well, I don't have clients in other indigent
Right,
healthcare
right.
programs.
Wow,
I have a client here, and what you're doing is illegal.
sure, yeah,
You're gonna change.
right,
And they, they said, okay,
Okay.
we'll change.
okay,
And they did. They have not, to this day,
yeah.
when you get,
I didn't, I want to stay with them. They put me away.
I'm sorry,
I say, when I was with them, I didn't want Social Security. They put me away. They put me off away from them.
Yeah, you were with the
Harris Health.
Harris Health?
10 years.
I think a lot of people get very good
They
care
put
from
me
Harris
away.
Health, and that's why I say I'm sort of ashamed. I'm sort of ashamed of having sued them, but I didn't sue them for money. I didn't, all I was trying to do is make them obey the law,
Make them be better.
decide applications
Yeah.
on a timely way, not charge fees to people with no money.
Okay, yeah,
So,
okay, so
That's what we're doing.
is
Now, I'm saying that's Harris Health. I think Harris Health does a pretty admirable job. There's other indigent healthcare programs in every county in Texas. Many of them have a much lower income limit than Harris Health. For many of them, the income limit is 22% of the federal poverty guidelines, which for an individual means that you have income below about $200 a month.
Mm,
If you have more income than that in Fort Bend County, for example, you get nothing from them.
wow,
That's an individual.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow,
a lot of rural counties and a lot of counties have that low income limit, and I can't fix that because the legislature said they can do that.
Hmm.
Harris Health has a much higher income limit, around 150% federal poverty guidelines. They're still going to give you pretty much free health care. But
Okay.
other counties, much lower. A whole nother thing that you can do is go to a FQHC, a federally qualified health clinic. Legacy Clinic, for example, here in Houston, has several clinics around town. They operate on a sliding scale. That's a good thing. That means if you don't have any money, you probably can get your care for free. The problem is they're only a clinic. If you go to Legacy and I'm not running them down, I'm just saying they're limited to what a clinic can do. If you go and you need your diabetes medication, A+, they can do that. They will do that. So far as I know, they do a good job of it. We're fine. But if you go and you need a hip replacement, they don't have a hospital. They don't have a Bentob or LBJ hospital. They can't do a hip replacement for you. If you need to see a neurologist or rheumatologist, they generally don't have those. So they're good for a clinic, but that's all they can do. The indigent healthcare program can do a lot more. One thing that we have noticed is that a lot of indigent healthcare programs sort of come up with some weird ideas about what they can do because nobody really rides herd on them. So, for example, the indigent healthcare program out in Montgomery County, I got a call, 15 years ago from one of our lawyers out there. She said, we keep getting these people coming in to get a divorce. And they say they have to get a divorce to be able to get indigent health care from the Montgomery County Indigent Healthcare Program. Can that be right? I said, well, I don't think so. Let's go talk to them. So we sat down across the table, sort of like this. There were like 6 of them and 2 of us. And they said, well, in this case, the husband, he's sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not there. He's just in and out, and we can't tell whether he's really there or not. And if he lives in the household, well, then he counts as his income counts. And if he doesn't, so the only thing we can do is just insist on them getting divorced.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's not. I don't think that's exactly what my client told me, but we'll go talk to her. And when we talked to our client, I think I can quote her verbatim. I think what she said was, some bitch lived 9.5 years ago, haven't heard she run for any since. Pretty much exactly the way she said it. I appreciated that. And it had the ring of truth to it.
Yeah.
I did not think this guy is in the house sometimes and sometimes he's not there. He hadn't been there for 9.5 years. So we sued them.
Yeah.
And they ended up having to change the rules. And I'm not ashamed of that one.
Sure.
They had a bunch of other things that they were doing wrong. Some of them they ended up having to change, and some of them they kind of dodged. And if I had a client, I would still go after them again for some things out there. But I'm convinced that a lot of county indigent healthcare programs in outlying areas make up rules so that they don't have to give people eligibility. And in ways that are not legal.
Right.
And nobody thinks, well, this is a legal problem. I got to take it to legal aid.
Yep. Which is
So,
why some
I'm sort of on a rant to try to find those cases, but I don't find them very often.
Okay.
So if you know of anybody that has that problem, give me a call. I'm really interested.
we want to work on bringing this thing to a close.
Okay, well,
So-
that's the end of my presentation on indigent healthcare. Any questions? Any questions from the
No.
virtual audience?
No online questions. Anybody else have any more questions before we take that? Okay, I only have one question, which is, in a 2-part. Do you see, well, I take that back, 2 questions. Is what's happening right now with the federal government with the shutdown and pending cutbacks, is that affecting Lone Star Legal Aid's funding at all?
Not that itself is not directly affecting us, but we
Okay.
are having some funding problems.
Okay,
A lot of our funding does come from the federal government.
right,
It was not affected by the OBBB, the One Big Beautiful Bill.
okay. How about some of that?
But we are still affected by the federal government, and they are still trying to cut our funding significantly.
Yeah,
How that's going to work out, we don't really know, but we've already lost a number of attorneys.
yeah. And that,
And we're cutting back some other staff in the near future, is my understanding.
okay,
We're not gone, but we're a little cut back.
And that goes to my next question, which is how do you, is there anything that a person can do to protect their social safety net benefits as these benefits are being cut?
That a person can do. Well, I would say there's two answers to that. One, yes, two things.
Okay,
One thing is watch the notices very carefully.
okay,
Every time that the government tries to stop or reduce benefits for SSI, food stamps, TANF, Medicaid, any of the public benefits areas, they have to send you a notice. And they have to tell you what they're doing, why they're doing it, and generally that you have a right to appeal that if you want to. Should you appeal everything they do? Well, not necessarily, but I will say this. Generally, that appeal is for free. It doesn't cost anything. And the worst possible result from that appeal, I like to tell my new attorneys, you know what they do to you if you lose one of these cases? If you lose a food stamp appeal, if you lose an unemployment, you know what they do to you? Nothing. They send you a letter that says you lost, that's all. They don't
Okay.
beat you up.
right,
They don't take your kids.
right.
Can't take the car.
Well,
or
really,
your-
damn
you know.
it.
The worst possible result is a decision saying, yeah, our office was right, we're gonna reduce your food stamps. That's the worst thing that can happen.
Right.
So if you want to appeal, feel free.
Yeah.
When we look at, are we gonna represent somebody in the appeal? We're generally looking for, do we think we can win? Because we don't want to waste our time.
Yep.
But there's no downside to those appeals. So doing an appeal is one thing. Watching the notice very carefully, reading those notices carefully, and sort of holding their feet to the fire. They have to explain what they're doing. They have to explain why, and they have to give you an appeal right.
Okay.
Now that's basic public benefits law since I think it's 1971, Goldberg versus Kelly. I learned about it in law school when I was still fairly young.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say that an individual can do is be active politically.
Okay.
Now, I just say that generally, I'm not speaking to any particular political party, but let me tell you this. About 10 years ago, or 15, I don't remember, a long time back, we were having a problem with the food stamp office taking a very long time to decide cases. Like you'd file an application and the law says they have to decide your application within 30 days. That's what the law says.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't doing it. They were taking 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, sometimes 6 months, and there's no decision. So we sued them.
Yeah.
And the federal court said, you can't sue them. We don't have to take your lawsuit on. You're just an individual. Only the federal government can sue them. The federal government doesn't want to, so back off.
Yeah.
That's kind of a shameful decision in my view,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't ask my view.
Yeah.
They dumped us out basically.
Okay.
In a couple of different cases. So our lawsuit, we tried.
Mm-hmm.
It did not work. We began telling people at some point, you know, if you're behind on your food stamps, if it's been way more than 30 days, you may want to call your state legislator because they're the ones in charge of that agency,
Right.
HHSC. And, you know, the first couple of calls for any individual legislator's office, they go to some staff person who would write a letter to HHSC, go, this person says it's, what can you say? Nothing really happened.
Mm-hmm.
About call number 5 or 10 or something, they're talking to Representative, what's his name? And going, yeah, Charlie, I'm getting all these calls from people who are saying their food stamps are really delayed. They're supposed to be decided within 30 days. It's been 3 months. And by about call number 20, Charlie is getting up on the floor of the Texas House of Representatives going, My constituents are saying that this food stamp program is messing up. They're taking way too long. What is the problem? Well, it turns out the problem was that the state legislature had required HHSC to privatize everything, have a private company make all these determinations,
Mhm.
and they fired a bunch of their workers.
Right.
And the private company wasn't doing the job that they were supposed to do. And eventually they fired the private company.
Yeah.
And eventually that meant that people started getting food stamps in 30 days.
Sure.
Did that happen? Did one person do that? No.
Right.
Did it happen right away? No.
Collective.
But, over a period of time, a whole bunch of people, eventually those legislators got the word.
Right.
Now, which legislators you need to call depends on which ones are responsible. It might be state, it might be federal.
Sure. Yeah.
If the problem you're talking about is food stamps are delayed because government shutdown, well, that would be federal.
Right.
Your state legislators didn't have anything to do with that mess. Other problems may be state legislators, right?
Requirements for, you guys services like.
Us,
Yeah.
yes, we do have income limits. If you have tons of money, we can't represent you, but the income limit is fairly high. We represent a lot of people who have a job and are working and making, if you're making $50 an hour, we can't represent you, I would say. But if you're making $15 an hour and you have 3 kids, yeah, we can represent you. I don't really remember. I mean, the income limit depends on the number of people. It's a percentage of the federal poverty guidelines. I don't do that part of it, so it's not right on the top of my head. Yes, we do have income limits. I believe our absolute income limit is around 200% federal poverty guidelines, and there's a couple of ways that we can get around that in certain circumstances. But yeah, there is an income limit.
Okay, Ms. Fountain, you got a question?
Quick,
Quick.
right off of her. If, per se, you're suing a party, say you're suing the city,
Mhm.
whatever money, say you get $100,000, does Lone Star get a percentage of that?
So now, when I have done lawsuits, generally I don't do that. But when I have done lawsuits, like I mentioned against Harris Health, we didn't sue for money. We sued for do this appropriately. We did get some attorney's fees, not for us. We had an attorney that was working with us who helped us defend against their motion to get us out of court. He was very good. He got some attorney's fees and that was his money. There are most kinds of cases that I do, I don't get any money from. Lone Star doesn't get any money from. I'll use an example. I do a lot of Social Security disability cases. A private attorney who does that case, if they win, very typically will have an agreement that's approved by Social Security where they will get 1/4 of the retroactive benefits, which may be, say, $3,000, $4,000 if they win an SSI case. If we win that same case, we take nothing. Okay, now there's a weird kind of case. If we lose that case and we appeal to the appeals council in Falls Church, Virginia, and write a 5-page brief, blah 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 blah, and wait around it, and we get a decision, we still take nothing. If we lose there and we go to federal district court here in Houston, which is a fairly powerful court. I love to tell a joke about federal district judges, but I'll tell that after. But if we win in that court, the judge can order attorney's fees for our office. I have won attorney's fees in that kind of case, I think 4 times in the last 12 years. Each time it was around $12,000-$15,000. That of course went to Lone Star, didn't come to me. But it went to Lone Star Legal Aid. But that's attorney's fees that are paid directly from the federal government for being so stupid as to deny this over and over and over until we had to appeal all the way to federal court. It's not part of what our clients could have gotten. This is money that our clients never could have gotten, even had they been attorneys and done their own case. Okay,
I have a good question.
Go ahead.
So if you get a ticket, can we do your hand those too? Like, I'm gonna do you all like you a ticket?
no, we can't do any criminal case, and
That's right.
a ticket is not money, but it's a.
You broke the law.
criminal
All right, can we give Attorney Larsen a hand? Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it.
I'm very willing to sit here and talk to y'all if y'all want.
No, we gotta go.
I'll even tell you my federal district judge show.
Okay, and Yvonne, since Yvonne has an event that she wants to share, no, come up, because I'm gonna do the flyer and then you can. Yeah,
Well, kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying earlier with the Texas, with the transfer on
Transfer on deputy.
transfer on deputy. Cause, what's the other, it's Lone Star Legal Aid.
come over here.
Are you want to put me on the screen?
You don't, you mean hide you? I can hide you.
Put that up there.
All right, there you go.
So I was just saying that there's an event this weekend that's gonna be talking about the Texas.
Transfer on deputies.
Yeah,
And medical directives. That's another very important thing to do.
yeah,
Is what it does is it tells a doctor what you want done when you are not competent to say.
yeah.
So you could say, for example, if I'm in really bad shape and I have to be put on a respirator for the rest of my life and I'm never getting off, you just forget that idea. You can say that if you want, or you can say, yeah, put me on the damn respirator, keep me alive as long as you possibly can. You can say either of those things. But you can tell the doctor what you want.
So if anybody's interested, it's gonna be this Saturday. It's at the TSU.
Is that what you sent me that's trying to download?
Yeah, oh, you can just take a picture of it.
Yeah, I'll send you the flyer, Ms. Fine.
Okay.
Okay, so in closing,
'Cause I know
again,
that you guys do work with, I mean, sometimes with the.
We can do those, and we often do. Like I said, if you wanted to transfer on deputies, we could send you a form. It's not hard.
And they're gonna be doing it this Saturday.
so again, this is why we do Thursday morning breakfast. A lot of good information was shared about things that people don't know about generally and need to know about. But again, it's not just with Lone Star Legal Aid. Of course, we have people ran for office that are going to be running for office again. We got to talk about that. It's nonprofits. It's people doing things for the community that can benefit the community that we want to share. So this is why we do this every Thursday morning, because it's important, it matters, and again, we want to be the bridge between people that are doing the good and people that need that good to be done in their lives. As always, thank you, Attorney Larsen, for being here. Thank you guys for showing up, and thank you guys for being online, and we'll hopefully, prayerfully see you guys next Thursday. Thank you.
Thanks for all the very smart.